Okay, so I was at Kroger last night, and we were getting pumpkins to do some pumpkin carving, and we're like in the costume section. There's like this really small, like, cowboy hat with some sort of like leopard pattern on it. I'm like, oh, it's a pimp hat for kids. And I said, my boy's gonna be a good old pimp for Halloween. And like these two rednecks come walking by us right when I'm saying it, and they're just looking at me, and I'm just like, I probably just offended them, but that was well worth it. Yeah, they just stared right at me as we were walking by.
Like, Danny stole our idea.
That's the last. My boy's gonna be a pimp for Halloween.
Welcome back to That's Alt. I'm your host, Bryan McBallz. Here with me today, I have KelleyCK.
Hey there.
And Jordan Wade.
Hey, hey.
And Marcus, TheOnlyTigger.
What's up?
This is WiiU. It's an entirely new concept.
And today, we're going to be discussing the Wii U and our expectations of the system and what we think, you know, with the direction Nintendo's going. And Marcus, I understand you have the system reserved. I guess we'll go ahead and start with you on what your take is.
Well, I mean, can't tell already. I'm a big Zelda fan, so got the shirt, busting the Triforce. So looking forward to, you know, like what it'll bring to that series in particular. So always been a big Nintendo fan, maybe minus the Wii. Didn't really care for that system too much, but I think it's a nice step in the right direction. Nintendo's trying to reach back out to their hardcore fans, bringing along, you know, a system that's trying to reassert itself in what essentially is dominated by the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. I think it's really unique that the system is going with a kind of like a tablet style controller for, you know, most of their games that they're going to be rolling out. Being that it is touchscreen, kind of like the DS, I think it'll possibly eliminate maybe some, you know, like menu management stuff that we've seen in many games where you have to press pause and then go into inventory and, you know, switch stuff around. Potential for some augmented reality stuff that they've started showing off with using the cameras that are on it, or even second screen gameplay like we've seen that they've started showing off with like WiiU. They put in a specific instance where like there's a guy, he's trying to pick a lock and you're using the touchscreen to pick the lock, and on the main screen, you know, you have the screen zoomed into the view of the zombie and you're trying to pick the lock on the touchscreen before the zombie wakes up and grabs you. So I think it opens up some nice potential to what we can hopefully expect from Nintendo, but I am going into it a little reserved, you know, kind of was burned with the last generation that they tried to roll out, and but hopefully things are looking good, and they're trying to bring in some big titles to start. You got Assassin's Creed 3 on the way. You also have Arkham City on the way, which is, you know, reskinned with the Armored Edition, so they're trying to get those people in. Of course, they're going to bring out a Mario because you got to get the family-friendly people in there. And then, you know, WiiU, they're kicking it off pretty big with the franchise that, you know, hopefully is going to be the start of something big.
This has actually been an interesting thing for me for the Wii U, because every system that Nintendo's released I've been excited about. I would go as far as say I was a Nintendo fanboy at one point. I'm probably a little jaded now. I wouldn't say I've been necessarily burned, but GameCube was a system I actually waited in line for, like the day it came out and stuff like that. I was really excited about it. I had a Nintendo 64 before that, Super Nintendo, NES, whatnot. And the GameCube was like the ultimate system for me, and it just didn't seem to eventually have the games that I wanted it to have. I eventually had to go out and buy a PlayStation 2 and an Xbox and stuff like that in order to get all the games I wanted to have. And I think that's just kind of the nature of the gaming industry, or the nature that it's become, you know, how it's changed. It's now become this multiple system thing where you need all three systems. It used to be fine, or now it's kind of moving back to maybe just one system with not as many exclusives, but at that time you needed all three systems for the different exclusives. But then I waited a little bit on the Wii. I didn't buy it right when it came out. I got it about 6 months after, and my expectations for the Wii were significantly lower. So I kind of got what I wanted out of it. I got a Zelda game, got a couple Mario Galaxies, got Smash Brothers. So it was a good experience, but the Wii U, I am not as excited about. I'm excited about WiiU. I'm excited about possibly Pikmin 3 and an eventual Smash Brothers. But other than that, there's not a lot of software out there that I need to have. So, New Super Mario Brothers is nice, but we're now seeing that on every system, and it's sort of the same gameplay experience every time. And they add little differences, little different power-ups and stuff like that. But it's not enough for me to want to go out and buy a system for that game. And Zombie U would be the only game I want at launch, so there's really no need for me to spend $300, $350 on a new system. So I mean, right now I'm not going to have one at launch. I will possibly eventually own one, and that's provided they have a good Zelda and a good eventual 3D Mario and Super Smash Brothers.
I think me and you are kind of on the same page because, like you, I was a huge Nintendo fan back in SNES days, NES, N64, and so the Wii really wasn't. It disappointed me very much because third-party support was almost non-existent. They weren't competing with the Xbox and PS3. And yeah, I mean, the only concern I have is that while they are making the Wii U to kind of be in the same league as Xbox 360 and PS3, when the new generation of Microsoft and Sony come out, I have the same fear that Nintendo's going to be left in the dust again, and their hardware is going to be slightly outdated. Maybe not as much as the Wii was, but to some extent, the developers, if there's better tech on Microsoft and Sony, I wonder if Nintendo's going to get left behind again.
Right, and I mean, the crutch they seem to be leaning on is the fact you have this tablet-based controller, but we see Sony with the Vita kind of working that in with the PS3. I mean, it's not a tablet, but you have an extra controller. And I know Smart Glass eventually with Microsoft.
That's what I was wondering about. Is it going to be kind of similar or different from the Smart Glass or the Vita?
It's going to be very different from what I've seen of it as far as coming out the gate. It's pretty much essentially think of it like the second screen for like the DS initially for like while you're playing games. But one of the cool features that they have for it, running out the gate is also that I've seen instances where you want to play split screen on Call of Duty, but instead of actually playing split screen, you have one person using the tablet as like a screen, and then the other person's playing on the TV, so that you don't have like past problems like GoldenEye, like screen watching and stuff like that to see where someone's at, or possibly even somebody wants to watch TV and you want to keep playing, you can switch it to the tablet to play the entire game on your tablet versus playing like on the TV, and then they're free to watch TV or do whatever. You still have to be within range of the system in order to play, but so you can't take it portable with you, but it offers a nice I guess selection of like how you want to play the games.
Okay, that makes sense.
Whereas Smart Glass is a little bit more of like actually controlling the system, like actually like setting your
so like
stuff.
like a remote, basically.
Right. It basically acts as a remote.
I feel like it's more for like when you're on the internet looking at TV or watching movies. It kind of, that's what I noticed with that.
Pressing next on Last FM or something.
Right. Next button on my tablet. Tablet is my next button.
Setting your queue for your Netflix.
There you go. Yeah.
So. I feel like they are bringing out a lot more titles right off the bat. Like when I watched the E3 coverage of it, it seems like versus when the Wii came out, it was a lot of family-oriented games. They're trying to bridge that gap of having games like Batman and Assassin's Creed and stuff like that, but keeping the same audience as well. I mean, Nintendo Land looked interesting, as well as Lego City Undercover. That seemed like something for everyone. So
I mean, seeing what they're trying to push out as far as like being that some of it is games that are already released, or even like stuff that's like upcoming. I think hopefully that's a good message to us, as gamers, that they, hopefully the system's easier to develop for, because that's one of the things that I think they struggled with in the past, or as far as like the GameCube, even like with it being on a different media disc, like maybe companies didn't want to, shell out the extra production to ship it on like the mini discs,
right?
Or in the case of the Wii, where like the software gets lost in the shuffle because you're dealing with a system that has so much shovelware of running off of a gimmick. So, and
also the shovelware ended up selling more copies than the more highly developed games, and so you start getting developers questioning, why are we spending millions of dollars to develop a game that's just going to sit there on shelves when somebody's pulling off something they can play on their computer and just adding waggle control to it, and it's selling millions upon millions of copies.
Another thing that's going to be a big deal for the Wii U for me is when they do finally reveal the full extent of their online capabilities. If it's going to have to deal with friend codes and with the Wii, they kind of just kept it really basic. They didn't want children hearing anything they shouldn't, or they kept it kind of locked down. I'm hoping that they'll open that up and increase the parental controls so you have the option to lock it down. But of course, make it to where mature gamers can get on with it. We need some team speak. We need some ability to communicate. Right. Friend codes are too long and complicated.
Another thing I liked seeing was the fact that they have the Wii Pro controller coming out soon.
Correct. Yeah.
That was a great addition because I was always jaded by Wii just with the remotes and the fact that you don't have a controller that you're used to with other gaming systems. So I think that was smart on their part to give them the option to use an actual controller.
I like the look of the controller primarily because it does model mostly the Xbox 360 controller, which for me or like most people is the ideal controller.
It's a comfort level,
especially comfortable. Little kind of confused on why they put both of the thumbsticks up at the top. Yeah, and they switched around the buttons, but of course they could be too much like Microsoft.
Right,
but
patent infringement.
It definitely is going to be something that hopefully adds to the gameplay. For the people that don't want to use the touchscreen controller to play their games.
And also it opens up for developers so they don't feel like we have to make a game that utilizes this extra screen. We can go ahead and port over a game that uses traditional controls, and we don't have to worry about tacking on things that we don't really have any care to do anyways.
Right. It allows them to bring over titles that they don't want to have to do that for, or in the instance older titles that have come out that had no use of the touchscreen, so they can just port it over if the coding is easy for them to port over.
Exactly.
So I would say that we still have a lot to learn about the Wii U as it comes closer to launch, and I would be definitely down for doing a discussion post after it's been released, after they've had a few months to have some game releases and see how it stacks up. I'm kind of looking forward to it, not for launch, but for its future.
Right. I mean, the legs of the system, obviously for any system, is what content comes out after launch. And Nintendo needs to dig in the closet and find some of the old properties they haven't used in a while. Metroid was rather absent this last generation, except for Other M. But I really love the Prime series.
Yeah, you had Other M, you had Prime 3, and
that's right.
They did the collection.
That's right. They did do Prime 3 at the beginning.
But you have, like you said, you have stuff that's lost. Like on other systems, like Kid Icarus was kind of lost on the DS. It had a big marketing push behind it, but I don't think it did critically well on the system.
It wasn't probably a system seller. But yeah, I mean, there's older titles out there that we haven't seen in a while. I'm glad that Retro did Donkey Kong Country Returns at the end. I'd like to see what Retro can do down the line, and I know there's rumors that Retro might be doing a Zelda game, and I think that would be good for maybe Zelda to go out of house for a bit to see what somebody can take with that franchise, because I felt like Zelda was getting a little stale, especially with Twilight Princess was kind of cool, but Skyward Sword seemed a little more of the same, and I kind of like to see them do something a little bit different with the franchise.
I agree.
I was excited too to see Luigi's Mansion coming back, because that was the GameCube title that came out. We only saw the one game, so I think it's smart for them. I mean, there are more titles to bring back, but that was a good one to see.
I'm just hoping for that one in particular, because again, that's one that's getting pushed to the DS, and they're kind of, doing like a mini game for the Nintendo Land, which is going to come with the system. If you buy the 32 gig system bundle. Is something that we want to see as far as like a game that was kind of lost on the GameCube because it came out like in the midst of like too many other titles like during the launch, and it kind of got lost. I think that they need to bring that back to the main system and stop focusing sometimes so much on the portable to get their audience or the hardcore people back into the system.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely speaking on that portable issue. They seem to release most of their RPGs on the portables, and I wish they'd kind of stray away from that. Because I'd like to play my RPGs on the TV, every once in a while. It's like,
or even like a Pokemon. I mean, I would like to see what they could do with that. An extra screen for Pokemon. I mean, to utilize that and do a full 3D RPG Pokemon on Wii U would be pretty cool. So
there's definitely something to look forward to. I mean, like they're just making the jump for say like that game onto the 3DS. With the next iteration after Black and White 2, they're saying that they're looking into the 3DS, but they really do need to bring it into, like the actual console, kind of like how back with the 64 we had the Coliseum, even if it's something, that kind of has that connectivity with it where you port them in from the Game Boy version and then battle them on the big screen. It needs something like that in order to reestablish itself, I think. And then even sometimes bringing in the games from overseas to the new systems, like I think the Wii got what was it, the new Dragon Quest, that was the MMO, and we've still yet to see that here in the States. So they need to be a little bit more proactive on getting some of that over here for us and for their hardcore gamers to, you know, reestablish faith.
Yeah,
I think it's clear it does have a lot of potential, so it'd be good to see how it turns out.
You have done well. Take this belt with you as a sign of your skill.
I can't accept this, Barry.
Why? Oh, hello.
And make sure you guys join us next week. We're going to talk about some movies we're anticipating at the year's end. And make sure to follow us on our Twitter at twitter.com/altness, and visit our website, altness.com. Thanks a lot, guys.
You heard about that kid that got kicked out of school?
For Martin Luther,
or
blackface, Martin Luther King.
Yeah, he went blackface as Martin Luther King, the white kid.
He didn't really wrong with it. He had a real good speech. He thought it was okay to do that. The school didn't.
So he didn't have any ill intent.
He was like 8 years old, man.
8 years old, light as could be, mullet.
He had a mullet.
And he was doing it out of respect. Yeah.
This kid had parents, though. I mean,
his mom didn't think anything was wrong with it.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah, right.
Go ahead, put the white lipstick on.